for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? How you doing? I'm doing good. Yeah. Fade to Black. Wednesday, May 20th, 2026. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Let's do this, man. Excited about the show tonight. This week on Fade to Black, Monday night, we had Paul Hynek here, DMT and ET Contact. Fantastic show. Always great when he's on. Last night, Dr. Doug Bittner was with us. A lot of science last night. UFOs, UAPs, all that stuff. It was great. And tonight, it's Bill and Jaci Kousoulas. Yes, it's been a minute, man. It's been a minute. And tonight, we're going to be talking about, well, my favorite subject, our paranormal world. We're going to do all of that tonight with Bill and Jaci. And tomorrow night, James Keenan is back with us because last night was the season premiere of Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch. So James will be with us tomorrow, and we'll talk about Skinwalker and, of course, Blind Frog Ranch as well. That is tomorrow night on the show, wrapping up the week. All right. Now, coming up, what's today? The 20th. So coming up in 8 days is my next event, Contact in the Desert, May 28th through June 1st, 2026. Tickets, information, full schedule, everything you need to know is at contactinthedesert.com. But it's about tonight's show for me. Bill and Jaci are here. I'm going to say this. Are you guys listening? Wave if you're listening. Wave if you're... I see Bill and Jaci all the time, and we were just together in Delavan, Wisconsin for the Contact Modalities Expo. Always great to see him, and we sat. They invited me to come and sit down with them. I didn't want to bring this up with them, but they can if they want. And it was after hours, and I said, oh, I'll be right back. And they said, no, we got a chair. I said, okay. So I came back and I sat down with them and the crew, and I ended up just yapping for like 30 minutes, and then I had to go. I had to go do something, but I got up and I was walking. And I was like, man, did you just embarrass yourself? Did you just sit down and just like take? Oh, and I put my head down. And I said, but I got my bases covered because the day before I went up to Michelle. I said, Michelle, get Bill and Jaci booked on the show ASAP. It's been a minute since they've been on the show. And she said, I'll take care of it. And then I turn around and embarrass myself like that. Oh, man, it was really funny. So let's welcome them back to the show. Bill and Jaci Kousoulas, and tonight we're going to be talking about their research, their paranormal research. It's the psychological and the spiritual dimensions of all of these experiences. We're going to go through that. Trauma, transformation, consciousness, and the mysteries of the paranormal and how they all intersect. We're going to do that and much more. Their links are below over on our website and throughout social media. And I would like to welcome back to the show Bill and Jaci Kousoulas from my hometown, by the way. Good evening. How you guys doing?
Good, Jimmy. How are you?
I had to get rid of the guilt. I had to just say, look, man. but it was really great seeing you guys, and thank you for putting up with me. All right.
Always.
Is that it? Is it that simple? Can I do it again? Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
You can do it tonight if you want.
It was so funny because Sam, who was sitting to my right, he's an instigator. Sam's, he's an instigator, and he's like, "Hey, man," I'm paraphrasing. "Tell us your life story in 30 minutes. Go." Right. And I did. It was a lot of fun. It was so great. What an amazing conference. And isn't it about time that something like that large and that cool comes to the Midwest? Pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's really, really nice. Melissa does a wonderful job of putting the event on and being able to have folks who are just really so well versed in what they do in our community right there. I mean, literally, it's an hour from where we live. It's so close. It's very convenient and a good program.
Jackie, what did you think of this year's conference?
I loved it. Jim Vieira was my favorite.
Jim Vieira, man. Another instigator. That's another troublemaker right there. He is so good in his research and the way that he speaks. But here's the other thing. I just wanted to say this, and I hope Melissa's listening or she'll catch this later. But a conference like that, where the producers that put on events like this hear it all the time. What about us in the Midwest? What about us? It's always East Coast, West Coast, but what about us? And Melissa not only was listening, but she's from there as well. But not only is she putting on a conference, but she's bringing the best of the best. So everybody that's there in the Midwest that's complaining, you get the best at a world-class resort. And that's what makes that event so special for me, is the excitement of everybody that's attending. I mean, wow, what energy, right? Woo!
Yeah. Super, super awesome to have so many like-minded people in the same area together, where you can just all talk and enjoy each other's company and be open to what people have to say without having to worry about it.
When I got up on stage, this is a question. I'll throw it to Bill first, and then to you next, Jackie, because we're all from the same area. But when I take the stage there, I want everybody there. Most know, I guess, but I really need to drive a point home that my career, my strange journey, is because of Waukegan, right? It's because of Wisconsin. It's because of Schaumburg, right? It's because of, it's so many strange and wonderful things happened in my life there. And the audience that is listening to me is going through those same things. What is it about that area? Bill, you got your start in the paranormal. You grew up in the same area. Same situation for you?
For me, Jimmy, really, it started way back when I was a little kid. My mom read The Hobbit to me when I was probably 7 or 8 years old, not even younger than that. And I just never had, when you're that little, you don't know anything, right? You just pick up everything like a sponge. And she got me turned on to fantasy. I read The Lord of the Rings. And then when we moved into Sycamore, which is where we live now, I started watching Project UFO, the old TV show. And that just was so riveting. At that point, I'd never heard of aliens. I'd never heard of extraterrestrials. And I was off to the races. I mean, anything that sounded remotely paranormal was something that I was attracted to. And I just went off the deep end. And I haven't come up for air yet.
Jackie?
Well, growing up in Northern Illinois, there was a lot of UFO activity at that time. My parents would take us out. We'd look in the sky at night. There was Bigfoot that were reported in the area. And we saw something as children that scared the holy hell out of us. We thought it might be a Bigfoot. We don't know what it was. Have all kinds of putrid smells and things like that. And also had, at 3, I didn't know how old I was, but I learned now through my astrologist that I was 3 years old. I knew I was really tiny. I always said between 2 and 4. 4 kids in my family. All of us woke up at the exact same time at night, went to our bedroom doors, looked down the hallway, and saw an apparition of Jesus standing there by a mom and dad's bedroom. So that continued through my whole life.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Did you know, were you too young to know that was Jesus?
I knew who Jesus was. We went to church, and I didn't know that it was Jesus. My siblings described it as Jesus. It looked like Jesus to me.
Wow.
But I mean, this just went on my entire. I was asked by Richard Haddam one time what it's like to be a person that just has always experienced paranormal, and it's like, I don't know what it's like, because that's all I've ever known. I mean, I don't know what it's like not to experience it. So,
yeah. Wow. My thing that I've always well, there's a lot of things, but when it comes to ghosts in that area, every friend that I had, and this is Waukegan, right, in that area. Every friend that I had, I just remember going to their homes, and it seemed like every friend of mine's mom had a ghost story, and that their house was haunted. And that was a very strange thing. Meanwhile, my mom is at home doing Ouija and reading Edgar Casey and doing the things. My mom was, she was 25 when I was born. Okay. So think about, she was a kid, right? So I look back at it now, she was my mom, but I think about it now, and she was a baby, right? Raising a family and doing her thing. But she was fully engaged in all of this stuff, and she was okay with it and talked to me about it. And I was like, well, I guess this is normal, right? I'm hearing it from my friends. I just thought that that's the way the world worked. What about your parents? Bill, were your parents into this stuff? I know your mom read you The Hobbit, but what about the other side of the paranormal?
So my mom and dad were divorced when I was 6 years old. And so my earliest childhood memories were of dad not really being around a lot. And it was really just mom and our great grandmother who raised my younger brother and me. And great grandma was 80 years old when she came to live with me when I was a baby. She raised me till I was 17 years old. They were both very fundamental Lutherans. So for my mom to be interested in anything remotely paranormal was a real stretch. So I don't think she realized the seed that she was planting in me when I was little and she read this fantasy book, because that just kind of kicked off this whole investigative mindset that I've had my entire life for anything that's, bizarre and otherworldly. Unlike Jackie, I have not had as many experiences. I've had some probably because of being with her over the course of the last maybe 5 years or so. Mm-hmm. But other than that, I've not really had a lot of experiences. I've been just more on the student side of things. So I just haven't been the big experiencer that my wife has.
Jackie, what about your parents?
Well, I know they believed in UFOs. As far as like ghosts, they didn't talk about that. My dad bought an old abandoned schoolhouse. It was the El Dorado School, and he remodeled it, made it into our home. And they never really had issues as far as ghostly stuff in the house. I did. My siblings say that they didn't experience stuff, although I know they did. My sister told me at one point, it was during the Me Too movement, we were talking about different things, and found out that I said something about, we shared a bedroom, and I said something about the heads on the dresser at night. And she said that, I saw them too. And I'm like, why didn't you ever tell me? I was scared to death of these heads that were on the dresser at night. I mean, I would cover up my eyes and peek out to see if they were still there. And because I was the baby of the family, she didn't want to scare me. So she just stayed frightened for, I don't know how long it went on. It seemed like forever as a child, but it could have just
Wait. Stop, Jackie. Stop. You just can't see that and move on. What do you mean heads on the dresser?
But there would just be like a head on the dresser, or sometimes there'd be 3 heads stacked up beside each other on the dresser, and they would move their eyes, but that was it.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you.
That scared the hell out of us.
Oh, I mean, man.
I still love to be in a closet. And I think it's because I felt safest in my closet than I did anywhere, because I was like able to hide back in the back of the closet away from stuff. But yeah.
Now, can we just stay on the heads for a minute if we could? Were they solid? Were they like,
yes,
yes, really?
Yes. They appeared to me like they were solid heads. It wasn't like the apparition that I saw of Jesus. It was like somebody chopped off somebody's head and sat it on the dresser.
Oh no, man. No. I have to say, done a lot of shows. I'm pretty quick to respond. I got nothing right now. I got nothing. That's crazy.
When I told Sam Morano about that the first time, he said, "That's some scary shit."
Man. I always thought, okay. I always thought my Pandora's box, like the one thing that I'm waiting to happen that I don't want to happen, is like that hooded shadow figure with red eyes. You wake up and he's you're standing on your bed. Okay, yeah. I'm that, but no, I got a new one. Heads on the dresser, man.
I don't care about seeing them ever again. But yeah.
I can't imagine. Okay. Have Bill, okay, in your guys's, I said guys's. Is that even a word? In the two of you's research. Oh man. Have you seen a shadow figure, Bill?
So there were a couple of instances before Jackie and I met when I was going through some major changes. And, one of the guys that we interviewed for our next book, he's another podcaster by the name of Robert Khalil out of Pennsylvania, was talking about having experiences with shadow people and stuff like that. So I was going through, he called it the dark night of the soul, when he had his major life changes that happened around 30. When I was around 30 years old, I had a romantic relationship breakup, and I was completely in the toilet with that. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat, I lost a bunch of weight, and all this kind of stuff was going on. And in the middle of the night, one night, I sensed like a palpable physical blackness kind of over the whole area that I was in, like in the kitchen of the apartment that I was in. Scared me half to death. I ended up calling up a buddy of mine because I was so freaked out. 3:00 in the morning. What the hell are you doing calling me? You could tell he was half asleep. Hung up the phone on me, called another friend, and he kind of talked me off the ledge, and I felt better about that then. And then a couple years later, I had a very similar experience. Those are the two main things that I have had happen in my life, with what I would call maybe some type of a dark presence or a shadow being or something of that nature. It might have totally been just me being personally stressed out and out of my mind with grief. I don't know what it was, but in any event, that's the closest thing that I had really that I would call a paranormal experience before Jackie and I had met. But like I mentioned, we've had more of them the last 5 years. And what's been really bizarre is that when we had our last home, it was a townhome, and we were looking at houses, and I told Jackie, I don't want to move into a used house. I want to move into something new because I don't want anything to haunt me. And we had no trouble there for the 10, 15 years we lived there. And then we built the house we live in now, and we have had nothing but weirdness since then. And I have seen shadow figures in the backyard. I had a traumatic back injury. I had issues that manifested in my right leg. Jackie had problems with her right foot. One of our dogs limped on the right leg all at the same time. And then Jackie was able to kind of intuit that there was some type of an accident that happened on this farmland many, many years ago before it was developed, in which there was a farmer who had an injury to his right leg, maybe was killed. And we had another psychic who also basically told us the exact same thing. So we've had weirdness happen in our lives really the last 3 or 4 years more than I've ever experienced in the past.
Jackie, why is it something? Okay, let me say this before I ask the question. Same thing with this house, Bill. Okay, I got this house 5 years ago. I live alone, and it's not brand new. It was built in '84. Okay, but it's not an old house, right? Built in '84, and from day one, there's stuff has gone on here. And I'm talking about stuff being moved, seeing things, things falling. And it was like a daily thing. It got so, it was like I was walking from room to room and seeing stuff, so I just started to laugh about it. What are you going to do? I live alone, right? Am I going to get scared? Am I going to freak out? Am I going to call somebody? Am I going to set up a camera? Am I going to flee to night vision? Am I going to do all of that and freak myself out, or just kind of live with it, right? So it kind of trailed off to the insanity over the first couple of years to now it's more dramatic, but it's less frequent. Right. I don't even know if that makes any sense. 2 months ago on the show, I think it was Dave Schrader was my guest. And we're talking about ghosts. At the end of the show, and you can go and watch it. I pulled the clip, or I think Bill, not you, Bill, my Bill, pulled the clip and sent it to me, and I posted it. At the end of the show, as we're saying our good nights and everything, this loud crash happens in this room. And I hear it. I pulled my headphones off and I said, Dave, was that you, Dave? And he goes, no, I didn't hear anything. I go, what do you mean you didn't hear anything? The audience did. He didn't. It sounded like one of my guitars fell off the wall or something like that. It was like a refrigerator tipped over. It was loud. Nothing moved in this studio. I wrapped the show. I thought it came from behind me. I'm pointing this way from behind this area here is where I thought that I heard it. Nothing moved. Nothing out of place. And so you just got to live with it, right? Jackie, what do you think causes this? What do you think caused the action at your house?
Well, I think that it's just, I think it's the super spectrum, honestly. I think that, we have this area here, and in between my hands is the decimals of what typical human beings can see, hear, feel, know, all of the clairs. And then above and below my hands are the upper and lower decimals. And some of us get to hear, like dogs get to see it, hear it, feel it, whatever, sunset. And some other people are able to too. And I think the more we become in tune, or the veil thins, or whatever all of that is, the energy shifting, all of the stuff that we're coming into now, is making it possible for people that couldn't before can, or people are becoming more aware because it's more prevalent now because of social media, internet, the world's become a smaller place, that people are talking about it more aware of it now, and people are tuning into it. And, I can't tell you how many times in my life that I've just scratched my head and went on, because it's just always. We came home from Starved Rock State Park to a paranormal weekend, and Bill's standing at the breakfast bar, 10 foot from the kitchen sink. I'm on the in the dining room out of the kitchen, and my sister's in the hallway, and the kitchen sink comes on full blast. This is after I saw a gnome that weekend poke its head out from behind me in our room. And he's like, "Why is our sink running?" And I'm like, "Just shut it off." And I walk past him and shut the water off. I mean, I think it's because once you notice the paranormal, it notices that you notice. So
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'm
Yeah.
with you on that.
yeah.
If you have a closed mind, or if you don't, I'm going to say a bad word. I'm just going to do. If you don't give a shit about, about any of this, well, okay, you're not going to experience anything. Once you open up your mind, Bill, it sounds like that's exactly what happened to you when you're talking about the last 5 years. Everything starts kicking off, right?
It's just taken off for us. We have so many what we could call coincidences, and not to use the phrase that everybody else throws the term synchronicity around, but even today. So this morning I got up and I'm making coffee. We're big coffee drinkers. Jackie's still in bed, and we have this plastic container that went to our last Keurig, and we fill it up with water and we pour it in, and then we go about our business, make our coffee, drink our coffee, blah blah blah, no big deal. I set it down, but I moved a little too quickly. I knocked it down and it hit the ground and it broke. And so I'm thinking, well, Mom is going to be upset about this, but I better tell her before she sees it being broken. So, and it's a cheap thing. It's not a big deal, but yeah, it's one more thing around the house we have to replace. And she says to me, I've been thinking about getting a new Keurig anyway. This one's getting a little bit old, so no big deal. Just throw that thing in the recycling. Later on just today, the Keurig dies altogether with no signs of it happening. And all of a sudden it will not work. So here I break the one piece that we fill it up with. She makes the statement, kind of puts it out there, and then the Keurig is dead. So thank goodness she just ordered another one. Otherwise I'm not drinking coffee, and that wouldn't be a good thing.
It sounds normal to me.
Yeah.
Right? It sounds normal to me. Let me throw this out to the both of you. Jackie, I like what you're saying about the above and below decimals, but the more that I interview and research and through my own experiences, I've kind of developed this idea. Maybe that there's a world that is with us right now, that at a certain point, the frequencies of those two worlds line up, and briefly we glimpse at that world, and that world glimpses at us too as well. And so what we see as a ghost here, right, is not that. It's something real, just in another dimension. And while that is going on, they're seeing us as ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Somebody's running home. I just saw this dude talking into a microphone, right? Right? To two people named Bill and Jackie. It was crazy. And then they just disappeared.
Yeah.
And it kind of, for me, checks a lot of boxes. Bill, what do you think about that?
Sounds
Possible?
a lot like, it sounds a lot like H.P. Lovecraft, doesn't it? Where he talks about the old ones basically floating around in the same space that we occupy, but we don't have the ability to perceive them except to kind of glimpse through and maybe see something foggy. So there's that. And like Jackie was talking about, the whole concept of the super spectrum, that's a John Keel
Yes.
ideology. That's the whole thing. The book, The Eighth Tower, was written about, with the frequencies and how now we use ghost boxes to be able to pick this stuff up and all that kind of business. But I really believe in the whole, extra dimensional thing. And yeah, there's probably stuff, phenomena in our place right now looking at us thinking, did you see something? Who's that guy sitting there with a laptop on the couch next to the big black dog?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Jackie, what do you think about that?
I agree with that. I think there are so many possibilities that you can't discount any of it, honestly. I remember the first time I heard of parallel universe, it scared the heck out of me. I'm like, what? I mean, this could be going on at the same time. It's like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. And I'm like literally thinking, so there could be, I'm cruising down, 88, Interstate 88, and there could be horse and buggy cruising down 88 beside me at the same time. I mean, it just freaked me out. But yeah, I believe that that's a real possibility too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, my stupid, my sighting of what, the Hindenburg or whatever it was, that was in Waukegan. And now I saw what I saw. It was real. It was fun. I didn't understand. I just thought it was something in the sky. I was too young, and running across the schoolyard underneath it and chasing it as it went, over the trees and into the forest and was gone. I, as an adult, look back at that because at the time it was just a real thing. I don't understand as an adult what it was, right? Was it a time slip? Was it this parallel world clashing with each other? I don't know any of that. The event itself was real, right? I wasn't thinking I was seeing something abnormal, right? You understand what I'm saying? And how many people go through that in their lives with an experience like that and just forget about it? It's just done and it's over with. The only reason why I found out about all of that was because I just tried to find out what airship was above Chicago in 1972.
Yeah.
That's all. I just jumped on Google. I just wanted to know what it was. I thought at the time, I thought it was from Great Lakes, Navy base or something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I thought. And then I found out that there wasn't any airships in the world since 1938.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that messed me up. That's when, as an adult, I'm looking back going, okay, so what was it then? Right? I don't know. So yeah, very strange. And how many times now, if you saw a horse and buggy, that's a great point. If you saw a horse and buggy, what would you think? You would think, oh, actors, right?
The Amish need to get off the interstate. They're going to get killed.
Right. Exactly. Are they filming a commercial? Are they shooting a movie? You're going to think like that. You're not going to jump into the paranormal side of it. Maybe Bill would. Maybe Bill would just jump onto ghost right away. But yeah, and science is talking about this today, extra dimensions and parallel worlds and multiverse and multi-world theories.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been talking about ghosts this whole time, and just maybe it's just science. Maybe it's just natural.
Mm-hmm.
Bill?
I think we just don't even really have the ability to really understand what's all around us. But I think, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, being open to it and not necessarily pushing it aside or poo-pooing it allows you to be able to perceive more than you would otherwise. Because if you don't believe, then you're going to make up a rational explanation for everything. And I don't want to say that I believe, but I'm open to things that present that I can't put my finger on and say this is exactly what it is. Let's keep that sense of wonder going, because we don't know. We don't have the definition of everything that's out there.
Now, you two, I've always looked at you because of your backgrounds. You guys are almost opposites, right? Okay.
Yes.
We're exact opposites. Yes.
Yes. You guys are exact opposites. And so for everybody out there, Bill, what are your credentials?
So I have a bachelor's degree in English and then a master's and a doctorate in psychology.
So you're a PhD.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
You're an intellectual, right? All right.
Your
okay.
word, not mine.
Yeah. Nope. Because Jackie, what are your credentials?
I have none.
See? Opposites. Oh, opposites. And this is why you two work so well together, right? That's absolutely amazing. But Jackie, when you go out and you're going to get an education in the paranormal and consciousness, how did you pursue that, and what did you do?
For education?
Yeah. What did you read? Who did you Who did you learn from?
Well, I actually read a lot of Keel, a lot of Mothman stuff started it, I don't know. I have so many books. I don't even know who the authors are. I just have so many books on such a huge range of stuff because there's, like I said, everything's possible. Anything's possible. I talk to a lot of people. I'm very open with a lot of people. When I was working, I'm a retired postmaster, and I had so many employees that, their day, I would go around every morning and say good morning to everybody. And I knew the ones that I could talk UFOs to, the ones I could talk ghosts to, the ones I could talk telekinesis to, anything. And the ones I couldn't say anything at all to because they thought I was crazy. I'd have employees, you want to see the orb that was floating through my house? Yes, I want to see that orb. I want to see the video now, So that's where I got my education on that, and just like talking with other people. But not until I was older, because it wasn't safe as a child to talk to people about that stuff. I mean, I was told by my parents, especially my mom, that my eyes were playing tricks on me, and that basically you don't talk about stuff like this. You just, it's not real. And I think she was trying to protect us from scaring ourselves, because it was a scary, upbringing. But yeah.
Well, I bring up Northern Illinois and Waukegan and Diamond Lake and Libertyville and Zion, right? Crystal Lake, that whole area. I just find it very dynamic, very supernatural, and full of the paranormal. But then when we talk about, Bill brought up Mothman, which I know you guys have done a lot of research with that, but it's the same thing with Point Pleasant, isn't it? Bill?
Point Pleasant is amazing. It's just amazing. And Jimmy, before we segue over into that, let me just kind of give Jackie some more props, because what she didn't tell you is she's also a Reiki master, and she's an astrologer, and she's a very good astrologer. She can do birth charts. She consults all kinds of different things. So she's downplaying some of her education. So there's that too. But to segue over into Point Pleasant, I've been fascinated with that since I saw the movie back in 2004, and we've been traveling there since 2016. And the very first time that we went there was a mystical experience, really, for me. I was just completely in awe of this little town. And then when we got kind of connected to the area and started doing the research for our first book, which is about the bridge disaster, Mothman, and the good things that came of the community after those things happened, we started having some odd experiences there too. And I think we mentioned when we were on with you a couple of years ago that we did a ghost box session right there in Tuendeway Park, right where Chief Cornstalk's bones were buried. And you were like, what is wrong with you guys? Are you out of your minds? And then we traveled to Charleston, which is about an hour away, and we did ghost box sessions there. And we got all kinds of crazy information, and long story, but the area is just amazing. We have actually walked out of the TNT area with Jackie's ear was bleeding, and I had conjunctivitis, just like this happened in the Mothman Prophecies movie, or in the book back in the 60s when Keel wrote it. So we've had some weird experiences there as well.
Now, the TNT area. Teenagers going out, breaking the house rules with their parents to go and do what teenagers do. They find what? I did it. You guys did it when we were kids. You're finding a remote place where the police don't go. Right? Mm-hmm. Right. So you can just go and do teenager stuff, whatever that is. Right? Well, that was the TNT area. And it's like, what do you expect? You're out remote, you're away from everybody, so nobody can find you. And what do you expect? What do you expect? We had a place All right, I want to go through the Mothman story from the beginning and your research. But we had a place growing up in Indianapolis, and we called it the Electric Company. Same thing, the TNT area, right? Same thing, remote, out behind the trees. Our parents didn't know we were there. The police, we could go, we could park, and we could do teenager stuff. Crank up some Black Sabbath, and do our thing all night long. Well, we're out there one night, and the fog rolls in, and this is surrounded by 50 miles of cornfields. Just imagine that. Just nothing. The next city, Greenfield, is 50 miles away, and there's nothing but cornfields in between, right? Okay, so we're out there doing our thing, and the fog rolls in, and we're all sitting in my car. 3 people in the front, 3 people in the back. And out of the fog from the front of the car, and we're in there like, right, doing our thing. And out of the fog at midnight comes this hooded. Now, everybody in the car, we still hang out to this day. This was 40 years ago, 45 years ago, but we all tell the story to this day. It's just frightening. And this is what happened. This guy comes out. He's all in black. He had a hood on, and he comes up to my window. I'm at the wheel, and he's standing looking at me like this. I couldn't see his face, but I could see, and everybody's screaming. I'm like, man, what do I do? And I screamed too. And then I rolled, it's an electric window. I rolled the window down about that far. And he leans over and says, "Have you seen my dog?" Right, just and I roll the window back up, and my friend over the front said, "What did he say?" I go, "Dude, have you seen my dog?" And he stands there, and then he turns and he walks away and into the fog towards the 50 miles of cornfields to Greenfield, heading east. And that was it. And that's the TNT area, right? What do you expect to have? We were out there the next day in the sunlight in the middle of the day, and just like looking around like, where did he come from? No houses out here. His dog, there's nothing here but cornfields. Yeah, crazy. And we thought we were hidden. That's the other thing. Yeah. So back to Mothman. So when I hear the Mothman story, I think about my own experiences. This stuff happens. What's the Mothman story? How did it start?
Well, let me ask you this. Are you talking about Greenfield, Indiana?
Yes.
That's where we stay if we're too lazy to make the whole drive to Point Pleasant. We spend the night in Greenfield, Indiana.
Which is surrounded by cornfields.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's nothing there.
There's nothing there. That's where this experience happened. I can't believe you've been to Greenfield. Nobody's been to Greenfield.
We've stayed there 3 or 4 times. We had a really bad dinner there one night too, didn't we? Remember that?
In a bad hotel.
Yeah, we won't bust on the proprietors of those businesses. It is what it is,
No, I have friends that live out there. I love Greenfield, but it is exactly what you're picturing. It's a small town in Indiana surrounded by cornfields. Greenfield.
Yep, absolutely.
Indiana.
Honey, did you want to tell the story of the TNT?
Go ahead.
All right, I can do it. Yeah. So what we were talking about, the very first sighting of Mothman that took place in the Point Pleasant area was in the TNT area, which is today known as the McClintock Wildlife Preserve. It's just about 10 miles north of Point Pleasant on Route 2 right along the Ohio River. It was an old munitions area where they had built TNT for the World War II effort. It was decommissioned right after we bombed Japan, and they shut the whole thing down, but it turned into a super fun cleanup place back in the 70s because all these chemicals, you know how it was back in the day, they didn't have any regulations. It just seeped down into the ground, made the whole area toxic. But by the time the 60s rolled around, there were 2 couples. They were 18-year-old couples, both married, Roger and Linda Scarberry, Steve and Mary Millette. They were out cruising in the TNT area, just hanging out. And all of a sudden they noticed there was this black winged creature with piercing red eyes, which, scared them half to death, because it would scare me half to death. They took off and hightailed it back towards Point Pleasant, driving along Route 2, which is a really scary drive. I don't even like to go 50 miles an hour, let alone the 100 miles an hour they were driving on this twisting, turning road right on the banks of the Ohio. But they pulled into Point Pleasant. They went to the police station. They told their story to Deputy Millard Halstead, and they gave their stories independent of one another in 4 different rooms, and they all came out verbatim. The story was exactly the same. The kids were terrified. The police believed they saw something, but they couldn't, qualify what that was. Then for the next 13 months, there was all kinds of paranormal activity in the Point Pleasant area, really in the greater Ohio River Valley area. But John Keel and the local stringer for the Point Pleasant Register, Mary Heyer, did all kinds of investigations. They interviewed people. And so the microcosm of where all this stuff was going on was considered Point Pleasant. There was UFO activity. There was poltergeist activity. Men in Black showed up, 2 different types of Men in Black, beautiful lights in the sky. You couldn't even describe what the colors were. And then at the end of all this barrage of activity, there were also prophetic voices that people were getting, mystery phone calls, disturbances on their radios and such. But December 15th, 13 months after this whole thing kicked off in 1966, December 15th of 67, the Silver Bridge, which went across the Ohio River between Point Pleasant and Kanagua, Ohio, collapsed. And it was very frigid. It was a very super cold night. People had been Christmas shopping. The lights on the bridge both went red, packed up with 500,000 pounds worth of 18-wheelers, Model Ts. I mean, just small, old cars. They were just all sitting there, and they were dumped into the Ohio River, and the bridge fell on top of them. Basically, 46 people were killed. It was one of the 2 largest river disasters or bridge disasters that have happened in the United States. Ironically, the other one is considered the Truesdale Bridge disaster that happened in the town that Jackie was living in when she and I met, Dixon, Illinois, back in 2004. That bridge disaster happened in the 1800s, but the Mothman story was kind of like a Skinwalker Ranch back in the 60s. All kinds of paranormal activity, really focused on the Mothman.
Jackie, on that first night, when the 2 couples, and I say couple, they were married, but they were, they're teenagers, babies, right? On that drive along, which is parallel to going south to the Ohio River, and Bill's right, it's not, but they were hauling balls in the car. What happened between TNT and Point Pleasant?
Well, as they were flying down Route 62, well, actually, when they were leaving the TNT area, they were on, I'm not positive if it was Fairground Road or if it was a different road out there, that they were coming out of the TNT area from. Linda Scarberry said that she saw that it appeared Mothman had caught his wing or something on a guardrail, and she noticed that he was very muscular, and she felt bad because she thought he had injured himself, and she was concerned. But then shortly after that, Mothman was swooping down and flying with the car. Once they got onto 62 and they were exceeding 100 miles an hour at some points,
That's
Mothman
right.
was still swooping down, came up over the car, scratched Roger Scarberry's front end of his car. So there was physical evidence there. They also saw a mutilated dog alongside the road, which they thought possibly could have been a dog that was Merle Partridge's dog, who had disappeared the day before their sighting, but he was more closer to Parkersburg, where his incident occurred. He didn't see a Mothman. He saw floating red lights that were twirling around, and his television wound up and exploded. Who knows?
We'll get to the exploding light bulb a little bit later, Becky, if that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. It's a terrifying experience that they went through. Can you imagine 100 miles an hour on that road, and you're driving 100 miles an hour because of what you just saw, and you're just trying to get back to town and to safety, and you go straight to the police with that story. Pretty incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
How did the police react?
They actually were really graceful towards the kids because they knew them from the community. They had never been in trouble. They didn't go out looking to start fights or anything like that. They were good kids, and they were terrified, and they could tell it was legitimate fear. And when they broke them down into 4 separate interviews and the stories all came out the same, they knew they weren't just making this up. They knew something happened. So you'd think that, in today's world, you'd call somebody like that a little bit off their rocker, but the police did not react that way at all.
Jaci, what did you guys discover doing the research and as you're compiling stuff for the book that surprised you and that was different from the traditional, I say traditional, the original story of Mothman, because it was covered in the local papers. John Keel was on the scene, and it was pretty well documented locally as a story. But you guys go in and do research so many years later. What did you find out that surprised you?
What surprised me was mostly it was regarding the bridge collapse, where people got so emotional about it still so many years later that they would break down and cry about it. And then also, that people, they were either super excited, got like a huge amount of excitement in their voice about how much fun it was going out into the TNT area, going to, to look for Mothman, and they never found him, but it was so much fun just to look. And other people that were so afraid. We had one guy that told us that he didn't believe in Mothman, but he moved as a new 7-year-old boy he newly moved into Point Pleasant from Nitro, West Virginia, which is closer to Charleston, West Virginia. And he was out just walking the streets, trying to see what was going on in his new town, see if he could make some friends. And some lady came up and she said, "What are you doing out, boy? You better get home. That big bird's going to get you." And he said, he looked at us and he had like this terrified look on his face 50 years later. And he said, "What do you want to tell a kid something like that for? You're going to scare him half to death." And he looked like he was still scared half to death by that, but he doesn't believe in Mothman. So that was kind of surprising to me. But just the idea of there was like this big span of either totally don't believe or really believed and wanted to find it.
People talk about Harbinger and what that means and who that could be and stuff. But is that the way the locals look at Mothman today? Bill?
I think there's still a really strong note of skepticism in the people of the community of Point Pleasant. They really pushed back when this whole Mothman thing became a resuscitated phenomena because of the movies. Jeff Wamsley runs the Mothman Museum and coordinates the festival as well. And he's big time celebrity in town. Awesome guy. He's a rock and roller like you. You would love talking to him. But he told us that when they were trying to get the whole thing kicked off to really kind of celebrate, this movie and capitalize on what happened back all those years ago, there was a lot of resistance. They didn't want their town known for all that crazy nonsense. But Denny Bellamy, who we also interviewed for Bridging the Tragedy, told us that he was at a town council meeting one night and he said, "You guys need to understand, Mothman Saturday during the festival, you've got $2 million of business walking down the street and you're not taxing it." That got their attention. So now it's become something that's celebrated in the town. We've been going there for over almost 10 years now. And 10 years ago, we showed up the first time around the 4th of July, and it was super quiet because it was after 5 o'clock. I got to tell you, these days, it's not super quiet any day of the year. There are people from all over the world that show up in town, and they celebrate Mothman. People take pictures in front of the statue. You've got people that tour people around. So I think the community is still skeptical, but they understand this is kind of like, Dollywood for them now. This is where they get their tourism. This is where their business comes from. So they don't like chase people out of town, and they don't tell them we don't believe in it. They let you keep an open mind, and they want you to keep coming back, and we certainly do.
Now, hindsight, right, 2020, was Mothman a warning of some impending doom or disaster? And I'm talking about the bridge collapse. Is that the way that the town is now looking at it? And is there a positive take from it?
So when we put our advertisement in the newspaper in town to get people to participate in the interview process, the editor who we worked with said, you're free to ask questions about the bridge. You're free to ask questions about Mothman, but don't put them together like Mothman caused the bridge disaster to happen, because we're still 50 some years later, we're still reeling from this. This is still a big deal in our community. So there's still that skepticism and that pushback. But I think that as the community has warmed up to things, they really welcome the people coming in and checking things out and bringing our ghost box stuff and all those things to town now.
Jackie, do you think Mothman was a warning?
I do not think that Mothman was a warning. I think that the bridge failed because I-bar 13 had a hairline fracture that was a manufacturing flaw, and over the span of the lifetime of the bridge, it rusted, and it just happened to snap because there were red lights on there was stoplights on each end of the bridge, and they had both turned red, and they were stuck on the bridge. Traffic couldn't move, and it was icy, cold, heavy weight, and it went down. And actually, when we were interviewing Linda Lane, she was one of the persons we interviewed. She said that she had crossed that bridge a couple of days before that, or the day before that, and she heard something. And or the person that was with her heard, one of them heard like a snap sound, and the other one said, "You're crazy. You didn't hear nothing." But she said, "Yeah, I heard something." So I think that it was a mechanical failure. I don't think it was a warning.
I'm on the other side of the fence. What I'm suggesting is, as I have looked at the story now, I haven't researched it like you guys have, but if there was a crack, and which there was, and it was going to happen, that's what I'm saying, that the future was known and the warning was there. It's just that nobody noticed the warnings or anything like that. That's my take. It just seems too coincidental, because here's the reason why I say it. What about after the bridge collapse? Were there continued Mothman sightings?
So what we were told by Jeff Wamsley is that the sightings never really stopped, but the focus in town went to taking care of the families of, the survivors, of the people who passed away. And it occurred to me, Jimmy, I apologize, I missed your question. I didn't answer it directly. I actually am in more of your camp when it comes to this, because I think John Keel was getting all kinds of, external messages that were warning him of some impending disaster that was going to happen on the Ohio River. It just never really zoomed in on the bridge. So I do think that, if anything, Mothman was an entity that was trying to get the attention of the people around in whatever way that it could, to let them know something was going to happen, but it couldn't deliver the direct message. So Keel thought a chemical plant was going to blow up, or something else was going to happen along the river. So I do think that, if anything, that Mothman was at least like a neutral entity, maybe trying to warn people, if not like a benevolent or even angelic presence. I've never bought into it being an evil entity.
We're going to take our break right here. I wanted to say this really quick. Chris Bledsoe and his fear of red eyes, right? Chris Jr., I should say, right? And you guys heard everything that he had to say about that a couple of weeks ago. So there's that. I just told you my Pandora's box, right? Something with the red eyes. and we have Mothman and other reports that have gone on for thousands of years of these entities, these things with glowing red eyes. That's the part that is really fascinating to me. It's very consistent throughout history. Let's take our break right here. Bill and Jackie, you stay right there. Tonight is our paranormal evening with Bill and Jackie. We'll be right back after the short break. You guys stay right there. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button now.
Contact in the Desert is back. Come see a legendary lineup of iconic speakers, including George Knapp, Jeremy Corbell, Daniel Sheehan, George Noory, Whitley Strieber, Chris Ramsey, Dr. Diane Hennessy Powell, and many more. Join us in beautiful Indian Wells, California, May 28th through June 1st, as we explore infinite realms. Get your tickets now at contactinthedesert.com.
I'm heading back to the Midwest for the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd, 2026, in Delavan, Wisconsin, at the Lake Resort. It is beautiful. This is a great conference right in the heart of the Midwest, where I'm from. I'll see you there. Just go to Contact Modalities Expo. That's XPO.com. I will be hosting and presenting once again at Contact in the Desert. That's May 28th through June 1st, 2026, the largest UFO conference in the world. Come and hang out with us June 23rd through July 1st. Tickets and everything else that you need is at contactinthedesert.com. Want to change your life? Want that paradigm shift? Then visit Peru with Brian Forrester and myself for the Inca Celebration of the Sun, June 23rd through July 1st, 2026. A full 10 days of visiting the country, all of the amazing sights, and of course, the celebration of the winter solstice. It's all simple to do. Go to hiddenincatours.com. Come join us for the Monty Python Scotland Tour, August 1st through the 9th, 2026. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event where you get to go to the castles from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. August 1st through the 9th, 2026. Just visit HaleyARamsey.com. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bill and Jaci Kousoulas is with us tonight. talking about our paranormal world. We've been focusing on Mothman, and I wanted to ask the both of you. You now are presenters at the Mothman Festival, and how is the reception of that? And is the community still recovering? You know, they must have a massive case of PTSD that has gone on for a few decades now.
We've had a great time presenting at the festival. We've done it 3 of the last 4 years. We're not sure if we're presenting this year or not. We're going to be meeting with Jeff Wamsley next month. In a couple of weeks, we're going to go out and hang out with him a little bit. But to answer your question, interestingly enough, the whole concept of PTSD has something to do with the first book that we wrote about the area. I would say that there are still people who are definitely still traumatized by what happened there. We talked about Roger and Linda Scarberry a few minutes ago. Roger Scarberry actually, after he left the community of Point Pleasant, I think back in the late 60s or maybe early 70s, did not return to the area for over 50 years. And he and both of the Millettes, Steve and Mary Millette, the 3 of them refused to talk about Mothman to anybody. Now, Linda Scarberry, his ex-wife, passed away a few years ago. Of the 4 people, she was the only one that was ever vocal about what happened in their experiences, and she kind of stayed in the limelight. Well, in the public eye, I should say, not necessarily the limelight. We had the opportunity and met Roger Scarberry last year. He just finally came to Point Pleasant and said, Jeff, I want to tell you my story because so many people are telling it. I want to tell you what really happened. And so Jeff had the opportunity to interview Roger Scarberry, firsthand Mothman witness, who really the book started with back in the 60s. And that story is not out yet. We're waiting for Jeff to release that in his next book. But yeah, to answer your question, there are people still traumatized by it. When we interviewed the folks we talked about, Jackie mentioned Linda Lane. There were times she got choked up. Susan Sayer got choked up. Jimmy Wedge lost both his mom and dad in the bridge disaster. He shared his experience of things. So there absolutely is an element of people still that are traumatized by this. Now, the long and short of it is these people are getting older. This happened back in the 60s. And so Jeff was the youngest person we interviewed, and he was 60 when we interviewed him several years ago. So these people aren't going to be around forever. For the most part, you don't have as many people that even really physically remember the bridge disaster, but it's like tattooed in the memory of the community itself.
Jackie, what's your take on that too as well? Is there a sense of extended trauma with the community there?
Yeah, and they actually have done really nice memorials, for where the bridge used to stand. They have a memorial where 6th Street used to go to the bridge. They have painted a truck in the bridge, so that you can see this is how it used to look. The sad part is on the Gallipolis, Ohio side where the bridge was, there's not a memorial. There's like a piece of a broken eye-bar that's at a rest stop, and that's about it to show that. And that's something that is kind of puts a thorn in the side of some of the people because they were affected as well. Gallipolis was affected as well. It wasn't just Point Pleasant. So,
yeah, 2 communities divided by a river, and 2 different situations. I always found that very interesting because the pop culture version of this is it's a Point Pleasant story. It's not. It's a community story, isn't it? It's both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. West Virginia story.
Yeah, right. What about, I feel a sneeze coming on.
Bless you.
Hit that mute button just in time. Why do you feel great after a sneeze? Man, I feel good. I was already good, but now I'm better. I am better. What about a spiritual change in Point Pleasant? Has that happened?
That's a great question. I can tell you, Jimmy, that when we did the analytics for the last book and took a look at the way that the community grew, one of the biggest dimensions of growth that the community experienced was spiritual development. Now, that being said, they're in the Bible Belt. They have a very strong, Christian faith there. But the thing that really bonded the people together that we talked to was having that sense of faith, believing that everything happens for a reason, even if it hurts. And they didn't have psychologists, they didn't have psychiatrists, they didn't have counselors, but they did have ministers. They did have each other. They did have, guidance counselors at school, coaches. People stepped in. They helped them together. If anything, I think it really galvanized the faith of the people there, and it just really bolstered their faith.
Jaci, we were talking about the interdimensional side of what we may see. When we look at Mothman, was Mothman physical or was it interdimensional? What's your take on that?
I believe Mothman was interdimensional because there has really, well, now that I say that, I have to kind of step back because I was going to say there was no physical evidence for Mothman, but there was because Roger Scarberry's car got scratched.
Right.
So there was that. So perhaps it's like one of those things that can be interdimensional, but can also manifest in a physical realm if it needs to.
Now, when the lady gave, the birds, that giant bird's going to come and take you, right? What does that, it says to me that the sightings have been going on for a long time, right? They called it a bird, a thunderbird or something else, but Mothman and the TNT 1966 incident probably wasn't the first visit, was it?
No, likely not. Likely not. And it's interesting too because the people that Keel interviewed for the Mothman prophecies described it differently. Some of them said it's black, it's got red eyes. Some of them said it's got brown feathers, gray feathers. Tom Urey, who managed a shoe store, he was driving and he said it was the biggest bird I've ever seen. But I'm telling you, this was not something supernatural. It was just a gigantic bird. So there were all kinds of different reports, maybe different phenomena. It's entirely possible that people saw different things. But like Jaci was saying, I've always believed that, to use John Keel's term, Mothman was a transmogrification of energy that really presented itself along a continuum, not just one particular way of presenting itself, but along the belief systems of the people who were perceiving it. Keel talks in the Mothman prophecies about how they framed it in Point Pleasant along their line of belief, which was in the religious context. So they saw it, as something, some dark entity. And when John Keel showed up at the door of the couple in the middle of the night, he was dressed all in black. He must be the devil. So they kind of saw things along lines of their beliefs.
Wow, that's an interesting take. Do you guys remember, there's a method to madness. Do you guys remember back in the 70s, the Thunderbird sightings in Indiana and Illinois? Do you guys remember that?
I remember reading about it. Do you remember it?
Mm-hmm.
Jaci, do you remember it?
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah. When I was a kid, we're all the same age.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in Indianapolis. And suddenly photos and film, I would say video, but it was probably film, started showing up in the local news about these giant Thunderbird sightings, right? And I saw the pictures, all right? I watched the film and I thought, holy crap. And one day I was sitting on the couch, my stepbrother, David, he's walking through the living room with binoculars. He's dressed and he's heading out. It's like, where are you going? I'm going to go find me a Thunderbird. I'm like, man, I'm going, let's go. And it was like a thing. This was like 1975. And the sightings were from Indiana all the way through Illinois. It was like a really big deal for a minute there. And I just, now as an adult, I back up and scratch my head. What was everybody seeing? They were seeing something large. And then was this something that was misidentified? Was it something else altogether like Mothman? And and where I'm going with this is these kinds of sightings are not unusual, right? And I don't think Mothman is an unusual case, right? Do you see the parallels, Jackie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I mean, Mothman was spotted before Point Pleasant sighting was first reported, in Clendenin, West Virginia, which is a east suburb of Charleston. And we interviewed Andy Colvin for our book, and he saw it as a young boy riding in the back of the car, and he said it had orange eyes. So, and then the Piasaw bird in southern Illinois. I mean, this is all over the place, these things. So, yeah, it's not new, but back then we had Mary Heyer. She was a reporter for the Point Pleasant Register, and she reported on it heavily. And John Keel was there investigating it with her. So it got really focused in on, if this would have happened in Charleston or in Indiana or something like that, we would have a whole different story. It wouldn't be the Point Pleasant Mothman. It would be the Greenfield, Indiana Mothman,
right. which is where these sightings were. Yeah, right there in that area. Bill, how was Mothman described? Because we have moth, we have man, we have wings, we have red eyes. I have always pictured something like a human with wings with a moth head. And that's my take. How has Mothman been described, Bill?
The way you mentioned it is really similar to different depictions of it that I've been familiar with. I can tell you that the Mothman statue, with all the muscles and the way that it looks, really is not very representative of what was really seen. That was taken from a Frank Frazetta cover of the Mothman Prophecies, version 1 or 2 of the book that came out. The way that it was reported really was, like I mentioned, either it had gray wings, feathers, it was black, it had red piercing eyes, or it was brown, dark in color. And the one thing that was consistent was the piercing red eyes. Now, interestingly enough, the people that actually saw Mothman never really claimed that they could see the head. It almost looked like the eyes were coming out at the top of the chest, which is really bizarre. So the way that it's been, laid out in terms of that statue and, in popular culture isn't exactly the way it was described by the people that actually saw it back in the 60s.
Jackie, did he walk upright?
Yes, he did. He walked upright just like a human being. I mean, the only thing that I heard that isn't like even close to what any of that description is when Andy told us that he saw a black or dark gray winged humanoid that unfolded itself from a tree and flew off, that had orange eyes. That's the only thing that's not man-like about Mothman. And
now, what about? I just cut you off, Jackie. Go ahead. Just like I was doing when we sat down in Chicago, I just interrupted everybody, and I've got to get rid of that habit. What about the UFO connection? That's been out there. So if you're having sightings of craft and Mothman at the same time, it's easy for me to make those connections. Jackie, how many sightings were there?
Of Mothman?
No, of UFOs.
Oh, more than there was of Mothman. There was over 100 reportings of Mothman. And so Jeff Wamsley told us that if there was 100 reportings of Mothman, there had to be at least 200 sightings, because people didn't report it because a lot of people didn't want people thinking they were crazy. And there were twice that of UFOs, which makes me believe that Mothman possibly could have been extraterrestrial.
Bill?
And she's spot on. That's exactly what we've heard too. The whole Mothman story is focused on this creature that's known as Mothman, but really the big phenomena that was happening even before the Mothman sightings happened were the lights in the sky and the UFOs. We talked to Denny Bellamy, who's the director of tourism for the area, and he told us he had a sighting of a craft back around the same time that was hovering over the Ohio River. He said, and you know what? Then I saw that thing actually happen when we bombed Iraq back in the Gulf War. He's like, I saw it then too. So Wright-Patterson is not too far from there. So there may have been some misidentifications of craft that maybe we didn't know anything about, that the government had developed, that was flying around in the area as well, prior to really it being released and becoming something that the public was aware of. So that's always been kind of a component of the whole Mothman story, is that, maybe this is craft that we had something to do with. Maybe we really did know about this, but it was your typical government cover-up, covert operation.
Bill, what kind of craft were the witnesses seeing?
So Carolyn Harris, who ran the Mothman Diner and who was the co-founder of the Mothman Festival, told us that she didn't actually see the craft themselves, but her brother had a UFO land right in his yard, and he told her about what that looked like. Do you remember? Did she describe what that looked like? I don't remember what she said about that.
No,
Jackie?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
But she did tell us that the lights that she saw in the sky were the most beautiful lights that she had ever seen, and she couldn't describe the color. It was like they were colors that just didn't resonate. They were ones she was not familiar with. So people talked about, seeing these things in the sky. At one point, John Keel and Mary Heyer were in the TNT area sky watching, and they did see lights that were in the sky. Keel got his, military grade flashlight out and started flashing a series of dashes and dots up at the sky, and the thing started kind of doing the falling leaf motion and falling down the sky. And Mary said, what were you doing? Well, it was Morse code, and I spelled out the word descend, and then it descended. So there was that as well. Most of it, the way that it was described from what I recall, were lights. They described them as being lights.
The most beautiful light she's ever seen is how Carolyn said it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Were there any confirmed UFO sightings and Mothman sightings on the same day, the same night?
Not that I'm aware of.
Jackie, same
not
thing?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I don't have any actual research to prove that, no.
And one last thing, and I want to move on to your other book, Transcending the Darkness, is because of the religious component of this part of the country. Bill, correctly said the Bible Belt. That's what's going on there. Could that be a foundational thing for so many there because of their religious background? And then you have, the possibility of manifesting not only what Mothman is, but what he appears to be too as well. Do you think that there is a religious component influenced by the foundations of the Bible Belt? Bill?
Absolutely. The human mind does not like an incomplete picture. So whenever we view something that we don't necessarily understand, it tries to complete that picture along the lines of what it knows. So like I mentioned earlier, when the people had these strange things happening, their best context to be able to define what it was along something that they knew, and they knew their faith, they knew Christianity. So it was along that religious, line of thought that they believed that that's what it was.
Jackie, same for you?
Yeah, Carolyn actually said she thought that Mothman was an angel. So
not a demon.
An angel. And the interesting thing about that is Carolyn lost her husband and her son on the bridge collapse. So I'm wondering if maybe she felt too that Mothman was there as a warning, and that they didn't heed it. They didn't heed the angel warning.
Yeah. Fascinating. I've been invited to Point Pleasant so many times, and I haven't done it yet. It's a bucket list thing, but I want to go and feel the community and see what the vibe is. Today, is there hope? is there something benevolent that has come out of this and a look to the future? Or do they view it as some dark thing that Mothman brought to them? You know, and you only get it if you go to Point Pleasant.
It's much lighter than I think we even expected. I can tell you from the very first time we went, the sky was perfect. The vibe was positive. The people were kind. They were welcoming. They treated us like we were the most important thing that happened to their day. I've never felt any kind of like foreboding there at all. It's always been positive.
It is highly haunted, though. It is highly haunted. You get a
How
lot
so?
of.
How so?
There are a lot of stories of hauntings of ghosts that walk through backyards. There's a cemetery right in the middle of town where there's like school children that will march through the backyards. They're Civil War soldiers, or probably actually Revolutionary War soldiers, because it was the first battle of the Revolutionary War was fought there. And of course, the slaughter of Chief Cornstalk and his son, and you know, that whole story. So it's blood-soaked land. It's haunted. It's haunted.
Yeah. Can I ask you about that real quick, Jackie? We hear so much about Civil War and Revolutionary War battlefields and the ghosts that are there. What do you think? Is it something that was recorded? Yeah, if you know what I mean. Did nature record and is replaying a past event for everybody, or is it the soldiers themselves that are, you know, still visiting these sites?
You know, sometimes I feel like if a spirit leaves abruptly, it doesn't realize it's gone. So it might just be lingering there, waiting for it to be noticed again. Or, you know, it's like, why are people not noticing me? You know, I'm here.
Well, but that's exactly my point. I've heard so many witnesses say they were just out there doing stuff. They weren't paying attention to us. It looks like that they were doing stuff. Yeah. And it almost sounds like a recording.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, if there's no interaction, or if they're not approaching, you know, if there isn't that, then is it something that is playing back for us?
Maybe so, to give us correct history. I mean, if we would all just pay better attention, we'd have better answers, you know. But like with me growing up and being in the paranormal, I mean, it's just happens so much and it happens so fast that you just can't catch it so quickly, you know? I mean,
yeah. And for me, and I want to ask you guys about your own experiences in your home, there is definitely something here in my house. Maybe it's more than one. I don't know. But I've checked into the history of this area. I've got nothing. I live in the desert. It was a desert before. Into deep history, I don't have those answers, but I've mildly, I don't want to freak my neighbors out, but I've asked my neighbors, so, you know, what was the family like that built this house? You know, that's all I want to know. Hoping that they're not going to say, well, yeah, man, but the dad killed everybody, you know, and you know, but I'm fit, but I got nothing unusual from all of the past documents. So what is here, right? What is here? What is doing this? And what did they want? You guys have built a new house and you have activity. What do they want? If there wasn't, you know what I mean? If there wasn't some crazy thing that happened in the house with the previous owner, and in your case, that doesn't apply, does it? So what is in your home, Bill?
It feels like residual energy from whatever happened on the land before the house was built. You know, and like I mentioned, it was probably decades ago when this accident took place when this was just farmland, and some guy, hurt his leg, and then I get to feel that later on. Jackie gets to feel that later on, and Maggie, our dog, felt it as well too. It's like it's left over and it's communicating with us somehow. The energy is communicating with us.
Yeah, you see these guitars hanging
Yeah.
here?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Of course you do. Okay. This happened one night after the show. Okay. I'm going to grab a guitar. Grab this one. It's closest. All right. Oh, man, I just banged it.
Oh.
Ah! Okay. All right. I sign off on the show. This is a soundproof room, right? Ceiling is done, floors are done, walls are done, all soundproof. So if you take off your headphones and you listen in this, it is as quiet as anything you can imagine, right? It's very quiet. So I wrap the show, take my headphones off, and then I hear this. Now, that can only happen one way, right?
Yeah.
Follow me? And I'm looking for what caused it. It can only happen one way. Something strikes the strings, right? A guitar pick or a ghost. Now, and so I'm sitting here just like, all right, what do I do with that? Do I freak out? Do I scream? Do I run out of the room? Do I, or just go, okay, just chalk that up to another experience. But what causes that? And that's the thing when Jackie said, well, I don't know if it's interdimensional or not, but there were scratches on the car. Okay. So what is turning physical in here that happens? You know what I mean? If it's translucent, if it's a shadow figure, how does it go physical? How does something get moved? Jackie, exploding light bulbs. How does that happen?
I don't know. I don't know. It just happens with me. I mean, mine was with emotion. When I got, I so angry that boom, extreme emotion. So that's extreme energy.
Did you blow up the Keurig machine?
Well, I think I had a premonition because I told Bill, it's like, here we go again. 2 days before it dies, I'm ordering one because I think it's going to die.
Yeah. How does something go from non-physical to physical? And in your case, it's consciousness, it's emotion, and then it turns physical. That is something that I think science needs to take a look at. Is it something at the quantum level that we just don't understand? Bill, you're a PhD.
I think that it is, Jimmy. I think that the mind absolutely is much more powerful than we ever get it credit for. And like Jackie said probably an hour or more ago, once you begin to perceive the phenomena, it begins to interact with you. George Hansen in The Trickster and the Paranormal talked about that an awful lot in that book. We co-create this phenomena. So I think that the energy that we have, and Jackie certainly has a lot more perceptive ability than I do, but I think she also can cause some of these things to happen as well too. I don't think the fact that we have a gnome show up when we're at a paranormal conference is out of the ordinary anymore. We come home and the water is running full blast the minute that I look at the faucet. That's not about me. I think that's her energy, because I think she attracts a lot of this stuff into our lives. And I've gotten to the point now that, like I told her about the whole Keurig thing, it doesn't even surprise me. It's not even like it's anything but a thing, because these things happen to us all the time. But I think it's because we associate with people like you who are into this thing. People who come to our house are into this stuff. We talk about it, we believe it, and in some ways we either attract it or we co-create it.
I'm going to tell you guys what happened a couple of weeks ago. All right. This is crazy. I haven't talked about it. I'm on the set for Beyond Belief, okay, at Gaia. And it's a nice studio. It's big. You guys have seen pictures of it. Everybody's seen it. It's big. It's nice. It's amazing. I'm on set. My guest is in front of me. Cameras are rolling. We are shooting the show. You have seen in the pictures, the set has black walls, and then we have these lights that look like candles, right, on the perimeter that go out. It's beautiful, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. But everything is black except for the stage lights, right? But everything is dark outside. At the bottom of those candles, and the candles are about 3 feet tall, and they're on their perimeter. So we're live, we're shooting, we're taping, and I see a rat, a black rat, walk in front of the stand of the lights, and it's going this direction, and I see it, and I'm dude, we're rolling tape, man. I got to keep it straight. I got to be, oh, really? So what happened next on the UFO, right? I got to be, right? But I'm looking at this rat like this, and I'm looking back at the guest, and I look down, and the rat's gone. And I'm keeping the show. I don't stop the show. And then I see it again. I look down, and I see the rat go back the other way. A rat. Black rat. We get to the end. Okay, this is Beyond Belief. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We'll catch you next time. Cut. Excellent. I stand up and I go, did you guys see the rat? Right? There was a rat in the studio. There's no rats in here. I go, man, I saw something twice. Go back and watch the tape. Watch the tape. Just watch the tape. Meanwhile, I've got to set up for the next interview. I got out of there. They're like, what are you talking about? Dude, I'm telling you. Twice I saw it. It never, they were, I didn't see a rat, but I saw something. You follow me?
Oh, yeah.
Follow me? Yeah. It was great. Twice. And that was it. I wanted to move on. I didn't want this to be the subject of everything. I didn't want to sound like crazy dude. And I'm live on camera. I'm not going to jump up and there's a rat and stand in the chair, which I was tempted to do. And that, yeah, crazy. And that's it. Nothing. And I don't want to sound nuts. I don't. I almost didn't bring it up. I almost didn't tell. I was hoping they were going to say, yeah, we got a rat problem. We brought in exterminators. And they were like, dude, there's no rats in here. And I was thinking to myself, of course this is a beautiful, clean studio. It's amazing, right? There's no rats in there, but I saw something twice. I looked at it. I mean, I looked at it. I didn't see it out of my, it was right in front of me. It was crazy. So maybe it was the ghost of a rat. I don't know. Maybe the rat thought I was a ghost. I don't know. But wow. Yeah, just happened. I haven't told anybody this. Yeah. All right. I know I sound like the crazy ass aunt, right? Or uncle.
Yes.
Yes. Oh man, it just happened. Okay. What's Transcending the Darkness about?
Honey, why don't you go ahead and tell Jimmy how this started?
I honestly don't remember how it started.
With April.
Oh, so when we were completing our presentation at the Mothman Festival one year, we were looking to...
Jackie, you know we're live on the radio right now.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, silence like that. No, okay. Jackie.
Okay. So anyway, I had some different.
How do you put up with this, Bill?
Her?
How do you do it? How do you do it? Okay,
Oh.
so Jackie, tell us about how Transcending the Darkness started with April.
Yes, after the presentation, I presented 3 ideas for our next project, and I asked for feedback from the audience. And I started talking about the heads on the dresser, and I didn't plan on talking about the heads on the dresser, but I was just that they came out, and for an example, I guess. And April came up, a lady, afterwards, and I was talking with somebody, and Bill started to talk to her, and she's like, and pointing at me, she seriously wanted to talk to me. And I said, "Oh my God, you saw them too?" And she said, "Yes, but they were snakes." She saw snakes. So that's when we decided we really got to focus on the paranormal and the trauma that occurs in people's lives, the people that have the trauma and paranormal activity, and how it affects them in their life. So otherwise it was going to be the hag, or it was going to be the witchcraft epidemic in the world right now.
That is so interesting. What's the significance of snakes? And for you, it's chopped off heads.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, with her, I thought the snakes were something that she saw at bedtime like I did. And I thought she just saw them covering her floor, because I didn't get a full story. But when we interviewed her, it was a totally different story from all of that. And they were actually spirit animals that switched into spiders that she kept seeing, that were spirit animals for her. They were like her harbingers of doom. And I mean, to me, I see a snake, I'm like a rat. I'm jumping on the chair and I'm screaming my head off, With her, this was like totally different. She kept seeing these snakes before she realized that they were coming to her for a reason. And then she started being open to them, and they changed her from the fear into the familiar with what is the snake trying to tell me? What are these snakes, live snakes, coming to her, live snakes that she's seeing them. And then it started with spiders just dropping down from nowhere in front of her. And then now it's bluebirds. Now she sees bluebirds.
Oh, that's cool. I'm with the bluebird thing. I have never seen a snake in the wild. And I see the videos. I hear people talking about it, a snake in my toilet, whatever. I did have a lizard in the house, though. Yeah, in my bathroom. That was pretty trippy. I got him and threw him outside, and it didn't freak me out, but I was like, wow, okay, what are you doing here, little brother? But anyway, a couple of weeks ago, I'm out on my Harley in the desert. And I was talking with somebody last month about never seeing a snake in the wild. Okay. And this is what happens. I'm on my Harley, and I see up in the distance a big black desert crow raven. They're giant out here, and they hang out. But I see him coming in. He's off maybe 100 yards in front of me, and I'm riding, and I see it. And as I'm getting closer, he comes straight onto the road, and he picked up a snake right in front of me in his claws and flew away with this snake. Like, it was out of the movies, man. And I was like, well, I've seen my first snake in the wild. Is that the synchronicity we're talking about? Is that the universe where I tell somebody I've never seen a snake in the wild, and then boom. I watched this thing that picked up off the road in front of me. It was bizarre. And I saw the whole silhouette with the snake, in his claws as he's flying away. That was wild, man. You know what else I've never seen? I'm going to ask you guys, have you guys ever seen an owl?
Yeah.
Seen an owl?
Yeah.
You have?
We have some in our neighborhood, don't we?
We have one that hangs out on our street light right outside our spare bedroom during the day and looks in the window at us. Look at me. I don't know if
Looking
he's
at
ever
you.
looked at you,
Looking at
but he
you.
looks at me.
I'm so jealous. I've never seen an owl. I never have. I've never seen an owl. Bill, have you seen an owl in person?
I have. Yeah, I have.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
No, I've never seen. They're elusive, man. I mean, to me, I don't know. I've never seen an owl. Now that I've told you this,
You will.
an owl. Yeah.
You'll
So
see
next
a
to that
raven
rat.
swoop down and nab one right out of the sky in front of you.
Yeah, we went out, me and my friends, we went out to dinner on Saturday night. We saw, you know what we saw? You guys have to check this out. We went to a private screening of Dean Aliotto's new film, The Experiencers. Yeah, man, it was all that. It was great. So after that, that was Saturday afternoon, and then we came back to Palmdale and we all went out to dinner. And that was the subject of conversation at dinner, was everybody's owl experiences, and everybody had them. I don't. And so we talked about this on Saturday night. I have never seen an owl. Yeah. Everybody else has. Oh man, we got owls in our backyard. We got this. Everybody's got owl experiences. I don't have one. So maybe by me talking about this with you, I'll see my first owl.
There you go.
Well, throughout history, owls have always been tied to the paranormal, haven't they?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
And what is the significance of that? I mean, going back to like Mothman and everything else, where the owl is a figure. Owls are part of ancient Egyptian culture and cultures around the world for thousands of years. Very significant meaning to these cultures, right, Jackie?
Yeah. But I don't know what they all are.
Well, according to David Lynch, they're not what they seem.
Well, I know that.
Yes. The idea of the planted memories, and blocked memories, and using an owl for that, where the paranormal experience, the UFO experience, something happens, but you don't remember the experience. You see an owl.
Screen memory.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah. I've always been interested, but I don't have any owl memories. Yeah, I don't. What is it about the trauma that comes with this? I think that for some reason I have a built-in ability not to have these things affect me. I don't know why. That maybe it comes from my childhood, where I've got this defensive mechanism that my brain doesn't allow me to have trauma. But what causes the trauma, Jackie, and how can we start to take care of that trauma?
The trauma from the paranormal, or the trauma just of life?
Well, that's a whole. Well, I'll bring you back for that trauma of life show. But the trauma of the paranormal.
That's kind of what I was wondering when we first started this. I said, does the trauma bring the paranormal? Does the paranormal bring the trauma? But the paranormal trauma, I mean, if it's something that you're not used to dealing with, and all of a sudden you're just having these paranormal things happening to you, it's incredibly traumatic. Like you said, you don't want to see a big winged red-eyed creature. That's like your horror, of that. And honestly, it would be mine too. That's something I don't ever want to see. So I think that I don't know. I mean, I don't know, because we have, as far as like with the research and stuff, we're not finding that. Everybody's story has been so different. That's what we're finding. Everybody's story is so different. So it's really hard to like narrow it down to any one thing, because like Michael Carter, when we talked to him, he said that, he had an alien like right in his face when he woke up one night, just right in his face. He said, let me tell you, I was laying on the streets in New York with a gun to my head, and I was not as terrified then as I was when I woke up with this thing right in my face. So I think it's the unknown, something that we don't even expect. And when I was 13 years old, the basement door would open and shut and open and shut. And my mom said it was the wind. And it's like, it's not the wind. And I was scared to death. And I was the only one ever home when this was happening. And it's like, am I causing this? Is my fear causing this? Later on in life, I'm thinking that because my mom's telling me I'm crazy. The basement door that latches itself and that you got to turn the handle to open is opening and closing. And she's telling me the wind's doing it in the winter, mind you, when all the windows are shut. It's this is the kind of stuff I would hear. So,
yeah. And parents are always trying to pin it on our imagination, right?
Yes.
When we know it's different. I was in a Airbnb. I'm in bed. There was no TV. It was a very, very old house, like a 150-year-old house. Well taken care of. Beautiful house. And it had those, you guys remember in your grandmother's house, they had doorknobs that were glass, right? That looked like, you know what I'm talking about? The glass doorknobs.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. Really beautiful, beautiful house. And so anyway, the bedroom door wouldn't latch. You had to push it and twist the knob, and then click, it would finally close, right? Okay. So doors closed, right? I'm in bed. I take out my iPad, and that doorknob spun, popped, and swung open. I saw it. I heard it. I looked. It was 2 feet from my head, right there, right next to me. I watched that thing spin, pop, and creak open. And I screamed like you've never heard somebody scream. And I jumped up. I swung the door. I thought somebody was inside the Airbnb. There was nobody there, of course. And I shut the door again and latched it and crawled back into bed. I saw it happen. So nobody's going to tell me, oh, well, it's an old thing. It's, no, it was not any of that. It spun by itself, opened up, and the door swung open. So again, it's just a story. I don't have video, but it happened. Just like you with the swinging door, right? And your mom's going to tell you it's the wind. It doesn't change your experience, does it?
Not one bit. It's quite the rush, though, isn't it?
Oh, man. I peed in bed. 60-year-old man. Just, Bill, have you ever had an experience like that?
I don't think that I have. No, I really haven't.
The orange.
The orange?
The orange.
Oh,
Are you talking about when my leg was trashed and I was on morphine?
Yeah.
You should tell that story because that really happened to you, not me.
I guess you didn't see it. There was an orange. He had his injury and he's
let me quote Bill. You mean when I was on morphine? You better tell that story.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah, you better.
Oh man, this is going to be good. What happened, Jackie?
He was injured and they put him on morphine. He was sitting in the recliner chair, like right near the breakfast bar. And I was sitting at the breakfast bar putting together a puzzle because I wanted to stay very near to him. And I'm a busy person, so I'm constantly keeping my hands busy, my mind busy. And I have my arm up on the breakfast bar, and an orange comes rolling across the breakfast bar and stops like an inch from my arm. And I'm like yelling at him. It's like, this orange just rolled at me. And he's like, what? And I'm like, this freaking orange just rolled at me. It stopped. But he's like, yeah, our house is haunted. We need an exorcism.
Do you guys recommend that? I mean, this is what you guys do. You guys are researching the paranormal. You're out there. I hate to say boots on the ground, but that's what you guys do. You guys are out there doing this stuff. What advice can you give to somebody about an experience like that? Do you bring in a medium? Do you bring in a psychic? Do you bring in Ghost Hunters International? What do you do or not do in your own home?
So we actually, I mentioned Robert Khalil earlier on, and Robert has had what he calls an entity attachment for the last probably over a year now, because it's been a year since we've talked to him. But Jackie actually sent him was a return to sender kit. Is that what that thing was?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
And
that was only because he thought that he was maybe being attacked by somebody's black magic.
right, but he has actually had all kinds of things going on in his house. He actually feels something that gets like onto his head and then pierces into him, and then just he can feel the presence that's on him. It's really bizarre. And he's worked with shaman, he's worked with exorcists. Jackie sent him this return to sender kit to try to get rid of this if it's black magic or what have you. And we haven't talked to him for a while, so I don't know if he's still experiencing it. But I mean, there's all kinds of different avenues you can go with that. I think it really kind of depends, once again, on your belief system and what you think you can put your faith in to get past some of this supernatural energy.
I sage, I use crystals. I mean, there's all kinds of different stuff that you can do. I'm a huge advocate for saging and crystals. Yep.
I have crystals right here in my studio.
Don't leave home without them.
Oh man, I have so many crystals in my house.
We travel it. We have them in our cars. We have like every time we travel somewhere. I mean, literally when we went to Massachusetts to interview somebody, they know how into rocks I am. I have been since I was a small child. Henry, the guy that owned the property, so excited when we come back there one day, and he's got this big, huge rock from their property. He found me the prettiest rock he could so I can bring it home. I'm like, we're flying. This thing's like 10 pounds.
Every time I stop doing it, every time I fly with crystals, I get pulled into secondary search. Every single time. Yep. I don't know what trips off the X-ray machines, specifically with crystals, but they know where to look in your luggage, right? They're told, right? And so I'll watch them open it up and go straight to it and pull out a crystal. And they see it and they put it back and see it, but every time. So I've just stopped. I've stopped buying crystals at events and because I love crystals, but I stopped every time in secondary. Yeah. I stopped traveling with them. I love crystals. I do. When you walk in my house, you see what time it is. I mean, it's like Jackie's office. By the way, your office is extraordinary.
Thank you.
I'm looking at everything that is there. Crystals are very, very powerful. And what I found myself doing, I'm going to ask you guys, this will be the last question before we say goodnight. I have psychics come over to my friends. I have psychic friends. And they come over to the house and they walk in and they go, oh, okay. And I'll stop them. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Okay. Just stop right there. But no. I don't want to know. I seriously don't want to know. I don't want to know. I've worked through the issues. Have you guys had a psychic come over to your house?
Me, I live here.
Well, okay. You don't count. Have you had, I don't mean it like that. You live there. You have your own opinion, but have you had a psychic come over and try to give you their opinion on what's happening?
We haven't had one actually come to the house, but Harriet, who we interviewed for the first book, is very psychic, and we've been on Zoom meetings with her where she's actually diagnosed that something was wrong with me, and I ended up in the hospital within days. So we've had that, and she's been able to kind of see and sense different things about our property, literally from being on Zoom meetings with us, and did a remote ghost box session with us in West Virginia too, and picked up energies there. So we have had people kind of peer into what's going on here, but not being physically present, just being virtually present.
I've had probably half a dozen psychics here, maybe more, maybe one, but let's call it 6. All of them tell me it's a female ghost. They've all told me the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have multiple here. Yeah.
Well, maybe I have multiple, but they're all female. It's my magnetic personality. That's
Gotta
what
be.
I'm sure.
I think.
Gotta be.
Single guy living alone in the desert. Why not?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Yep. Let's go see that guy. Bill, Jackie, thank you guys so much. We've been friends for a very, very long time. It's always great to have you on the show and just have an open conversation like tonight. I've really enjoyed it. Let's do it again as soon as we can. What's up next for you guys?
What is up next for us? We're going to Point Pleasant here in a couple of weeks to go hang out there for a little while. Got a couple of other shows lined up that we're going to be on, and we're looking to have Transcending the Darkness out later on this year. So I guess that's what's on the docket for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. And Bill and Jackie's links are below over on our website and throughout social media. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening back in my hometown. You guys have fun, and we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy. Good night.
See ya.
The absolute best. Bill and Jaci Kousoulas. Perfect night on the show. Thank you guys so much. And I want to remind everybody, we're a minute past here. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, James Keenan is here. Skinwalker Ranch did its season premiere. I think it was last night. James is with us tomorrow night. So I'll see everybody tomorrow. Until then, all I've got is Go Beckley Teppy. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Go Beckley Teppy.